So much for watching my videos. Now today's video is a little bit different. It's actually one of my most requested videos that I get asked. A question I get asked quite a bit is, how do I start a nonprofit? How did you start your nonprofit, and what made you decide to start a nonprofit? Those are like the #1 questions that I get in emails, comments. I even have on my community tab right now, get to know me. If you guys have a question about me or something you want to know, then post a comment on my community tab, and I'm going to try to answer some of those questions in smaller videos, or maybe I'll do like a get to know me tag. I decided to do this video separately and not add it to my get to know me tag because it would be a really long video, and because there's so much to go through if you want to start your own nonprofit. Now, before I jump into that, I'm just going to go over the top 10 things you're going to need to do if you want to open your own nonprofit. And then I will go into another video. I have to do part 2 series on just basically all of, like, how do I get my money? How do I get donors? How do I do this? How do I do that? How did I set up my website? Things like that. There's a lot of different steps you got to take. But before we get into all that, I wanted to briefly explain how I started my nonprofit, because it's it's an interesting story. I hope you guys enjoy it. So let's go ahead and jump right into that. When I first started couponing, I've been couponing now for 6 years. When I first started couponing, it's a little addicting. It's so much fun to me personally, when you go in a store and you literally walk out with a bunch of stuff for free. Like, it can be very addicting. And I always preach in all of my videos, do what works best for you and your family. Don't go buying items just because they're free or they're super cheap. If they're going to sit in your stock, then you're wasting money. I'm saying that from experience because I did it. I was buying so much stuff, guys, and I was on a whole nother level. I would coupon before I went to work. I'd coupon at lunch. And then on my way home, I'd stop and coupon again. And I wasn't just couponing at CVS. I was doing CVS. I was doing Walgreens. I was doing Rite Aid. I was going to Target. And then when I found out Dollar Tree accepted coupons, it was insanely crazy how much stuff I ended up accumulating. I started in January. By April, this whole entire room was completely full of stock, like just completely full. So my husband came up to me one day and he's just like, this is great, really proud of you, but we have no room. There's literally no room for anything. And he pretty much said, either you figure out what you're going to do with this stuff, or you're going to have to stop couponing, because there's no room to walk. And I was buying stuff, guys, even though I knew my family wasn't going to use it. I was buying it anyways because it was super duper cheap. I wasn't about to quit couponing. There is no way I was going to quit couponing. I loved it. So I did what every normal couponer does when they have too much stock. They call their friends. They give stuff to their neighbors. They give some to co-workers, and you try to get rid of it. But guys, at that point, I had so much stuff. It didn't even make a dent. It really did not make a dent. So I was like, what am I going to do with all this stuff? I have so much stuff. And I didn't really think about it. I was just thinking of how I can continue this couponing thing, because I absolutely loved it. Of course, I had to slow down and, not go to so many stores and stuff. So that's what I did. That was one of the things I did. So I was on my way to work, and I get to work really, really early, like super early. I like not even my start time. I don't even actually know what my start time is. I always get to work really early. I usually leave like around 3:30 in the afternoon, but I get there like at 5 a.m. because I just like to have my time to like get my stuff in order and figure out what I'm going to do for the day. And I'll explain what I do for a living and all that in my get to know me tag or video or whatever. So I was on my way to work, and the night before, the day before, I had some bills that I said I was going to drop off at the post office, but I didn't do it. I was just like, I'm going to leave early so I can drop these off, but I went straight home. I didn't stop by the post office, even though I drive right past the post office every single day on my way and home. Anyways, I didn't do it. So I was like, oh, I got to drop these off. I'm already late. So this is what my thought process is. I'm already late, even though I'm not late. I'm just freaking out that, you know, I'm like late and I don't want to stop and do this. And I'm like, I don't want to go. And I pull into the post office and I see a homeless man. And immediately my brain starts thinking of how I'm going to tell this man that I don't have any money to give him and how am I going to turn him away. This is what my brain is thinking. And I haven't even spoken to the man yet. And so people are going to check their P.O. boxes and they're dropping off mail in the morning as well. And I see a bunch of people walk by and, you know, they're like shaking their head and just walking really fast. So I see a man come up, or he's coming out of the post office. He must have checked his P.O. box. And I was like, there's my window of opportunity. So I grab those letters, those bills, I run into the post office, I throw them in the mailbox, and then I run out of the post office. And well, actually I'm walking out of the post office and I'm like, darn it, that guy's gone. So I'm going to have to talk to this homeless man. So I'm still thinking of how I'm going to turn this guy down. So the homeless man, he comes up to me. He's sitting in the corner. He didn't come up to me. He's like, excuse me. And immediately I just said, I don't have any money. And he stopped and he said, I didn't ask you for money. And so that kind of like made me stop. And so I looked at him and I said, how can I help you? He said, I'm hungry. And guys, I felt like the worst person in the world. I mean, I know what it's like to be hungry and to need help. And in my head, I was stuck in this bubble of, let me just concentrate on myself. Let me just focus on myself. How am I going to turn this man down? How am I going to, how am I going to avoid this guy from asking me for anything? You know, I had went to the bank the night before. I had money. Of course I had all 20s. I wasn't going to give him a $20 bill, but I had money. And when he told me he was hungry, it literally, it broke my heart. It made me feel like such a bad person. I'm sorry, I always cry when I tell this story. It made me feel really bad. And I just felt horrible. I felt like such a bad person. And so I said, wait here. I'm going to go. In that parking lot is Carl's Jr., which if you're not in my state, California, it's called Hardee's. So I said, wait here because he's homeless and I wasn't going to put him in my car. I didn't know him. So I said, wait here. I'm going to go and I'm going to get you some food and I'll be right back. So I'm in the drive-thru and I just feel like such a bad person because I was so focused on myself. Like, how am I going to tell him no? How am I going to avoid him? And I was in such my own bubble of, I didn't stop to think that there are other people out there that are in need. Like, I didn't stop and think. So I drive through the drive-thru. I'm so sorry. I always cry when I tell this story. I drive through the drive-thru and I feel so bad. So I buy like a whole meal, and then I buy cookies and I buy coffee and I buy orange juice and I get change and I give him $5 because I just feel so bad. So he's waiting for me still at the post office, and I was praying that he was still waiting for me because I didn't want him to think that I left. It took a long time for my order. So I give him his stuff and he said, thank you very much. And I said, you're welcome. And he said, do you have a minute? And I was like, it didn't matter if I was late or not because I'm never late to work. We don't clock in. There's nothing like that at my job. And I felt like I needed to give him that time. So I said, sure. Yeah, I have time. And he said, before you, I'd asked so many people. I tried to ask for help. I've been trying to go to a food kitchen. It's been closed. I've been trying to go to a shelter, but it's been full. I'm hungry. I'm tired. And everybody I've asked has said no. So before you pulled up, I asked one last man, which he did because I saw, and he said no. He didn't even ask me what I needed or anything. He just told me no and walked away. So I started talking to God, and I told God, I'm going to ask one more person because I'm tired, God. I'm tired. Nobody wants to help me. There's nothing out here for me. So the next person I ask, if they turn me away, God, I am just going to go kill myself because there's nothing worth living for. And he had his Bible with him. And when he told me that, it broke me. Like, it took all my strength not to like literally fall apart. And he's like, thank you so much because you saved me. And I said, we talked, and I told him that God put me in his path for a reason because he wants him to live, and you know, to keep praying, keep reading your Bible, keep having faith, keep trying. There's people out there that care. And so I got in my car and I literally had to pull over because I couldn't stop crying. I felt so bad. I felt like such a bad person, guys. I felt really, really bad. So then I called my husband because I'm like a wreck in the car, and he's just like, you did good, you know, don't worry about it. You tried to help him as much as possible. You know, you did what you could. And I just felt really bad. So all day long at work, all I did was think about this man, and like could not live with myself if I knew I was the reason somebody would do that. So I got home and I went in my beautiful stockpile room, and I'm looking at all this stuff, guys. I'm looking at all this stuff, and I'm like, why am I holding on to this stuff? What do I need it for? We are just literally like a family of 4, and there's no little ones in my house or anything, and everybody's grown, and we're not going to use all this stuff. Why am I holding on to it? So that's when I started mass donating. I started mass donating, and I did that for about a good 2 years. And then after 2 years, I donated everywhere. I mean, I was donating like a crazy person because this man had me think outside my box, outside my comfort zone, and had me really think about how I can help people. So in a way, I didn't save him. And how I said this in one of my videos, he saved me. So I started mass donating for about 2 years. And then after that, my husband comes up to me, and he's such a pusher. Like, he's like, you can do it. You can do it. He's like, I think this is great. Love what you're doing. We're doing some great things. But I think you can take it a step further because you're so good at other things besides couponing. And he's like, you should start your own nonprofit. You're really good at this. You should start your own nonprofit. And I was like, I'm not doing all that. So the Popeye Toy Run's been going on for 11 years. The toy drive I do every year. And for 11 years, I've been involved. We never had a 501c3 behind it to get bigger donations or to even ask people, because sometimes they want a tax write-off. So one of the things I really wanted to focus on and I really wanted to add was this toy drive. That way it had a 501c3 behind it, and I was able to ask different corporations and companies and places for bigger donations. Even people like neighbors and stuff, they have a tax write-off, they have a reason to donate. So I talked to the founder who created the toy drive and asked her if it was okay if I added the Popeye Toy Run to my nonprofit if I were to start it. And she loved the idea. We're very, very close. She loved the idea. So I filled out the paperwork. We're going to go over that right now. And I got my 501c3 2 years ago. And I've been running with it ever since, guys. So if you see me half the time going crazy, that's usually some type of charity event or some type of function that I'm getting ready to do. And I absolutely love it. It's one of the best things I think I've ever done in my life. It's my passion. I'm very passionate about charity. I'm very passionate about giving back and just helping people, because not only did that man help me realize what my calling was, what my mission was, I know what it's like. So I just don't want people to feel like that ever again. I don't want to ever feel like that ever again. And so that is why I started my nonprofit. A lot of you have asked me why I started my nonprofit. So now we're going to go ahead and like I said, this introduction was going to be kind of long because I really wanted to take the time to explain to you guys why I started my nonprofit. So I am going to take a little break. I'll be right back and we're going to go over these steps. I need to like clear my head a little bit. Every time I tell that story, I get really emotional, and I'm so sorry if I made any of you guys cry. I cry every time I tell that story. Every time I get teary-eyed. So give me a couple minutes. I'll be right with you. Don't worry, I won't like keep the video going, but I'll be right back, guys. I need a second. Okay, guys, I'm back and I feel a lot better. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do when you want to start your own nonprofit is kind of figure what you're going to focus on. Now, I already had an idea of what I wanted to focus on, but I had like 15 things on my list. I picked the things that I was most passionate about. I love children, so the toy drive, I was very passionate about the toy drive. I love helping children. Low-income children and families were one area that I really wanted to reach and help the most. Of course, homeless. After meeting that man and doing a bunch of Skid Row drive functions and going down and helping and feeding the homeless, that really touched my heart. I definitely wanted to focus on that. And then the last thing that really touches my heart as well are veterans. My grandfather's a World War II vet. My husband's a vet. His father was a vet. So we definitely wanted to make sure that our low income and homeless vets are taken care of as much as possible. So when you start a nonprofit, the best thing is kind of narrow down your focus. Make sure you have a focus, like what area. Do some research, see how many nonprofits are helping that kind of sector in your area. It may be something that you can team up with another nonprofit and just give them a call and say, hey, I'm an extreme couponer, or I have items I'd like to donate. Are you having any functions to volunteer? And see if that's something you really want to do. The second thing is naming your nonprofit. Now, the nonprofit is named after my husband's father. And we picked him because he pretty much encompassed everything that we believed in, that we believe in. He's a vet. Well, he was a vet. So he was he was in 2 wars, I believe. So he's a vet. He lived in a children's home for a long period of his life. So a huge chunk of his life was in a foster home, or not a foster home, but like an orphanage. I think they call them children's homes now. So he lived in a children's home. And so he knew what it was like to live in poverty, and we really wanted to focus on children. So he kind of encompassed that too, and the homeless, because, you know, he really didn't have a home. And yeah, so he really encompassed everything that we wanted to focus on. So we named the foundation after him. Now, naming your foundation, if you get a catchy name or you think of a name that you really like, you definitely want to check with your Secretary of State and of your state. So I would check in the California Secretary of State registry to see if that name is taken. You cannot use a name that's already taken. And then you'd want to check the existing names in the business search page on the Secretary of State website. So you want to go on the Secretary of State website, whatever your state is, and just make sure that name is not taken. And then you want to run a trademark search, and that's an easy Google search. You just look up trademark verification, and you just run that name through to see if that name has not been trademarked. Now, if the name has not been trademarked, it is available through the Secretary of State, then you definitely want to apply for that name and pick that name up and use it, and B, and that is like a $21 fee to say you're going to use this name and register it with the Secretary of State. And then the next thing you want to do is trademark that name, and that's going to run you about $250 to trademark that name. It's going to run you about $90 to fill out the paperwork, and about $250 to trademark that name. Now, I have 2 trademark names. One is Couponing for a Cause. I recently, I would say about 6 months ago, received my trademark certification for that name. Since I'm on YouTube, guys, and I don't want to risk my name being taken, so I did trademark it. And then also the foundation name, which I really doubt will ever be trademarked because it's his father's name. But just in case, you never know. I don't want anybody trying to attempt to do that. So I went ahead and trademarked that. Now, if you have a logo or a saying or something, a different type of logo that you want to use, then you want to copyright that as well, because if you start using this logo that nobody else has and it's not copyrighted, somebody else can copy it and then tell you to take down your logo. So you definitely want to copyright that, and that's another additional $250. So you've already spent, let's say you have a logo and a name, you've already spent about $700 off the top. No, $600 off the top just on trademarking and copywriting your information. I'm just saying it's not a cheap process. It is kind of costly and there's a ton of steps. So after you run your trademark search, you've copyrighted or you've picked your name and you've registered it with your Secretary of State in your state, the next thing you want to do is appoint a board of directors. Now, my nonprofit is very small. It's not big at all. I purposely did it that way because when you have a huge board, yes, there's a bigger opportunity for more money in your nonprofit, but a bigger board means a lot more opinions and different views. And I really wanted to focus on what I wanted to focus on. I always open-minded. I love everybody's opinion, but this is exactly what I wanted to do. It was in line with what my husband wanted to do. So my board is very small, and you don't need a huge board to get started. You need a secretary, you need a treasurer, you need a vice president, and need a president, and then you can have board members. And all of my board members and people on my board, on my nonprofit, are all people that I trust. They all are either social workers, accountants, family members, and very close friends. So my board is very small. The decision making is very easy because we're all on board with the same things that we want to help. If you get a lot of people on your board that all have different views and different ways that they're seeing the nonprofit, you might have some difficulties. And I'm just saying that. And then after you've appointed your board, you definitely want to go ahead and start working on your draft bylaws or your bylaws for your nonprofit. The bylaws are basically like a company handbook. So I have some notes here. So if you see me looking down, that's what that is. So your bylaws basically have the following items: the purpose of your mission of your nonprofit. What is your nonprofit going to focus on? How directors are elected or otherwise selected by majority votes, directors at the annual board meeting. How the board may take an action by majority votes. How board meetings are called and noticed. Do you do them 6 times per year with a 14-day advance notice by email? I mean, how are you going to have your meetings? We do ours quarterly. Very informal. We'll probably just go out to eat. We'll talk about some of the events that are going on. We do some meeting minutes. That's what the secretary comes in, and then we keep a file of that. The officers of the corporation. Who are your officers? Who's the chief financial officer? Who's the secretary? And that is required by every state. So by California law, I have to list all of my board members. The duties and responsibility of each member, like what are they going to be responsible? Now, granted, all of my board members are all full-time workers. They have a lot of stuff going on. If I need anything, I know they are a phone call away. But my nonprofit, like I said, is really small. So a lot of the things I handle myself. I do appoint my husband to do some stuff. And I have Amanda do some stuff too. She's also on the board. So it really depends on how fast and how quickly you grow. I'm taking my time with my nonprofit because it's my baby, and I definitely want to make sure it grows and it sustains its growth. Like it, sustain. That's what you want to do. You don't want to just bust out and have a huge nonprofit and then, you stop getting donations and this and that, and you start getting problems. So the slow growth is the best to me because you get to manage it and actually see it grow. So like I said, I've only had my nonprofit for 2 years. That's it. Only 2 years. I'll be going on my 3rd next year. And every year I'm getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I'm absolutely loving it. Okay. You want the authorization of board and non-board committees. Tasked to act the authority of the board versus committee, that can only make recommendations. So that would be for somebody who's bigger. You'll have a committee, and then you'll have a board, and the committee will take to the board some stuff they want to do, and the board will vote on it. You know, it's really up to you how you want to make your bylaws and how you want to make your nonprofit work for you. Now, if you're starting out small like me, you don't need to do a committee. You don't need to do any of that. That's not really required. As you get bigger, you can put amendments in and add a committee. It is completely up to you. It's your baby, however you want to do it. And the reports due to directors. So if you have directors of your nonprofit, they're going to want to see your financial reports, how much money's coming in and going out. Now, after you've finished your bylaws, guys, you're going to have to get an employer identification number, an EIN number, and that is free online. You can apply for that. And then you're going to have to file with the Attorney General Registry of Charitable Trust. Now that's like a $25 fee. You just go on there online and you just tell them that this is what you're going to do. This is my employee identification number. And then you've filed with them that you're, starting this charitable trust. Now you have to file the Statement of Information with the Secretary of State, and that is another $25. And then you can finally apply for your federal tax exemption with the IRS, and that is going to be their biggest expense, guys. That's going to be about $850. Now, the reason why you do your bylaws first before you file for your exemption status, because you're going to refer back to those as you're filling out that paperwork. Now that paperwork is a monster. I actually did all this stuff myself. I had taken, and this is one recommendation, definitely Google search is your best friend in your state. Definitely Google nonprofit startup classes. They have sometimes free courses. I took a free course on how to start my nonprofit. I definitely would recommend downloading a nonprofit checklist in your area, especially if you're going to file this all by yourself, because one misstep and it could cost you double down the line. Definitely check it off as you are continually filling out your paperwork, because each step is a process. Each step takes a couple of weeks or 2 to 3 weeks before you get this back and this back and this back. And you want to make sure you check everything off that you're getting. Keep a folder with all of your information in it. It's going to really help you utilize it. And then when you're filling out your tax exemption paperwork with the IRS, you're definitely, for your federal, you're definitely going to be referring back to your bylaws a lot. So they're going to ask some questions and you're going to need to fill out that information. I think I circled some of that information. So what some of the things they're going to ask: what is the activities you're going to be doing? Who conducts the activity? When is the activity conducted? Where is the activity conducted? How does the activity further your exempt purpose? Like, why are you, why should we give this to you? What percentage of your total time is allocated to this activity? How is the activity funded? List any alternate names under which you operate, including AKA, also known as. So bunch of different information you got to fill out. So it's a process, and that process, after you've submitted all your paperwork and everything, usually takes, I filed in November. I got my 501c3 paperwork back December 6, 2016. So yeah, I was super excited when I got that. I was so excited. After you got your 501c3 from the federal, then you have to apply for state franchise, your state. In your state, you got to file for tax exemption with them, and that fee is $125. And it's really, really easy. It's like a one-page form. I did mine online. Every state is different. That's why I'm not really telling you guys the state. I'm just telling you where to look. I would definitely look that up in your state. It'll show you what you need to do and where you need to fill it out. Mine was online. Like I said, every state is different. And the total cost to expect to pay is between $1,000 and $1,200 just to start up your nonprofit. That's usually like your startup fee, getting registered with the federal, your state licensing, filling out all this paperwork, not including your time and energy. Now you can hire a lawyer or like what are those online, they can do it for you, like LegalZoom. They'll do everything for you, but keep in mind, expect to pay almost double. So instead of it costing $1,000, it might cost anywhere from $1,800 to $2,000, because they are charging you for their services, and of course it's going to be a little bit more costly. Is it hard to do? No, it's not hard to do. However, it is time consuming, and you need to make sure that you are thorough and that you are checking everything off your nonprofit startup checkup list. Definitely Google search that in your area, your state. They should have something. They have one in California. They should have one in every state. I would definitely look online to see if there's any nonprofit workshops that you can look at and look into to see if you can sign up with their free workshop. Mine was free. I got a lot of information. I made a lot of contacts, and it was very helpful to be able to pick up the phone and be like, remember me from the workshop? I'm confused with line item. And they, it's really great to reach out and have somebody to help you along the way. If you guys have any questions, comments, go ahead and post that below. These are just the top 10 steps that you need. There's a bunch more, guys. This is just how you basically start it up. I'm kind of generalizing because I'm in California. Not everybody's state is a little bit different. So like I said, Google is your best friend. The cost, it's a little costly to start. I think $1,000 is a lot of money, but is it worth it to me? Absolutely. And then next week we'll go ahead and go over, like, after I got my 501c3, then what did I do? What were the next steps that I did? So we'll go over that next week. I'll try to break this down into like maybe a 3-part series. I don't know. It depends on how much stuff I want to, go over. I definitely want to be as thorough as possible. And I hope this video was super helpful to you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching my videos. And remember, if you like these videos, please remember to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Like I said, next week we'll go into like how, what did I do after I got my 501c3? How do I get money for my nonprofit? I'm going to answer a bunch of those questions, like government grants and, all kinds of different things. So keep an eye out for that. That'll come out next week. And yeah, you guys have a fabulous, blessed day. If you have any questions, post a comment and I'll try to help you as best as I can. Talk to you guys soon.